Before this video begins, I would just like to make a quick note that I'll be uploading two versions. I'll be uploading a 360 degree version, this video, and a standard version which will have the angles picked in post, the other video. So be sure to check out both versions to get the best review of this camera. I'll be using the same shots in both versions of the video, but the narration will differ between the two videos to explain the different features associated with each video format. Hi, I'm Neil with TripTheRoad, and today I will be reviewing my new GoPro Fusion. You're probably watching this video because you read the 2- and 3-star reviews for this camera on Amazon, and you want to see how the camera performs before you drop $600 or $700 on one. I should first point out that you should have at least a basic understanding of how to edit in Adobe Premiere if you intend to use this camera for video purposes, in order to get the most out of it. While you can get great video with the provided software, there are some creative limitations. I think this is why many people are rating the camera poorly. Aside from initial launch firmware issues, people don't understand how to work with 360 degree video files, especially when it comes to publishing to social media. If you plan on using this camera primarily for stills, don't worry about knowing how to use Premiere. You can use a number of popular photo editing programs, including Photoshop. As you can see from the unboxing, the GoPro comes with a number of high-quality accessories to get you started. However, you will need two things: an SD card and a second SD card, one for each hemisphere. With the camera set up and charged, let's go see it in action. This is the first video after hitting power for the first time. I want to pause it real quick to make a note. In the renderer, I decided to turn on full stabilization. As you'll notice in the next few clips, the camera will always point north unless you change the orientation on your viewer. This is a great feature for high-action environments where camera rotation or shake is likely. This will keep your viewers from getting dizzy or disoriented, especially if they watch 360 degree video through a VR headset. This feature can be turned on or off in post-production, which is also great, so you can choose whether you need it later, depending on the needs of your content. You may notice the first flaw with this camera, and really most consumer 360 cameras, in this second shot here. While subtle, if you look to the southwest or northeast, you can see the stitch lines. That being said, unless you're actively looking for them, they're not really that noticeable, but it is something to be aware of while setting up your shots. You should center the most interesting content in front of the lenses as much as possible. On a moving vehicle with the lenses facing along the direction of movement, stitch lines become less apparent as motion blur blends together any artifacts. This motion, however, can confuse the rendering software and cause some funny warping to occur towards the base of the camera. Overall though, video from a moving vehicle feels natural and makes for excellent VR driving footage. You'll notice as I go around corners, the renderer continues to point the center of the footage towards north. During dusk hours, both the camera and renderer perform quite well. Image sensor noise becomes noticeable in darker areas of the picture, but areas of interest in this shot stay crisp. After sunset, however, image grain becomes much more apparent, and reduced frame rate causes motion blur. In this particular shot, I'm using the suction cup that came with my Motorsport Edition Hero 2, so some of the vehicle's vibration is translated directly into the camera. Even with these low light issues, this camera does a great job of conveying size and perspective, especially compared to a normal camera. And when the camera is stationary, shake and motion blur are not as much of an issue in low light. Image grain can be fixed by changing camera settings or using post-editing techniques to reduce or eliminate it completely. Straight out of the camera with the default settings, however, this is what you should expect to find. Here's that same suction cup mount during the daytime on a rough dirt road. This clip also demonstrates the camera's 3-axis software-based stabilization, which uses the camera's onboard multi-axis accelerometer to tell the renderer how to position the footage. Again, very good for people that will watch this through a VR headset. There's also a partial stabilization method, so the viewer does not have to turn their head every time the vehicle changes direction. The camera also makes for very immersive time-lapse footage. Here's a time-lapse I took of Interstate 85 in Atlanta on our way to Florida. And you never have to worry about missing any unexpected action, as the camera is always looking in every direction. With that ability comes some compromise. Since both lenses are fixed wide angles, you cannot zoom in on fine detail, such as this paper target. But being able to set up the camera without having to aim or line up your shot is incredibly convenient. It allowed me to enjoy the moment and pick the best viewing angle later, in both 360 mode and reframe mode. GoPro calls it the shoot then point camera. No pun intended with this footage. You may also notice that the rapid pressure changes from the gun firing is interfering with the full axis stabilization mode. I could easily re-render this video file with that turned off to eliminate that issue, since the camera is stationary. At regular sound levels, audio is pretty good, except for in windy environments. If you plan to use this camera outdoors, be sure to buy an external audio recording source. However, indoors, the multi-axis microphone does a great job of picking up casual conversation and other noise.
I need shoulder belts. I gotta find another terminal. This one does not want to work.
The camera is also capable of rendering with ambisonic audio. In layman's terms, 360-degree audio. This video is done in stereo because I haven't quite figured out how to do that in Premiere yet. But I did play some of the videos in GoPro's included VR player with my surround sound audio system, and it works. I was amazed with the accuracy of how well the sound was mapped out. Another issue that many have talked about that I haven't quite had an issue with yet is the difference in light level in each hemisphere, particularly during sunsets. Since the front and rear halves record to their own SD cards, I'm not really sure if the exposure is controlled by a central processor or independently by each camera. Another review out there may have the answer to that question. So what about 360 stills? I was very impressed with those as well, especially since the GoPro is capable of shooting raw images. You must first, however, use GoPro's rendering software to export the proprietary format to TIFF, before editing in Photoshop. The stills displayed here have little to no editing done to them, so this is what you should expect to see after stitching. While image grain is apparent in low light images, the camera's manual mode allows you to perform long exposures, which may help get the detail you need in order to correct it during editing. That concludes it for this video. If you want to see some of the downsides of this camera, be sure to check out the non-spherical version of this review. It also goes over GoPro's VR reframe and overcapture feature. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Viewer engagement really helps us decide which videos we should make. Be sure to check out some of our other videos, and of course, don't forget to leave your favorite timestamp in the comments.